Superman issue 1, Joshua Williamson writing with Jamal Campbell on the art. So we have our first big proper book from this Dawn of DC line, effectively. They're very spread out, so yeah, this is the first one we're really getting. Which isn't, I mean, the banner doesn't really mean a whole lot other than there's just a bunch of new books starting. So yeah, we have Superman, back at Daily Planet. Lois is in charge. She's filling in for Perry as editor, whilst he's off on sabbatical or something, they said.
Yeah, because remember his brain broke because of the he wasn't in the bubble. He was on the outskirts, and was it Action 1050?
Oh, you're right, yeah.
Yeah. So he's taking time away, and she's now the chief, and I don't know if it agrees with her. She's not. All I could keep thinking of was the previous writers, her lack of spelling prowess and
she's
grammatical errors.
She's a tyrant in this. She comes out of that office saying, "You thought Perry was bad. Get back to work, you bunch of lazy slackers."
Yeah.
So yeah, the opening's just kind of a fun bit where Superman is dealing with Livewire and then ends up officiating a wedding because the priest or whoever ran off. So the big thing though in this issue is that Lex is talking to Clark from prison like the whole issue. We get these bubbles, and at first I wasn't sure is he beaming them to him telepathically or whatever. Obviously Superman explains it a little bit later on, is that, and this is something that's come up before, is the idea that Superman, he's kind of focused his hearing in his life to sort of listen for certain voices, and he's done it for Lois and John and his parents, and Bruce, as Lois points out, which I thought was quite funny. I love that she's a little bit jealous that Bruce is kind of like his bromance. I don't know, that was cool.
The and Bruce section really made me laugh.
Yeah. So, but the other one's Lex, and not because he's a friend, obviously, but because in case he's up to something, kind of thing. So Lex knows this and is just talking to Superman the whole time.
I like also that from the prison perspective, Lex is just talking to himself, rambling about Superman, which just that visual is hilarious to me.
Yeah, it's a funny time. So we get the status quo. We set up this idea that Clark listens to music to try and focus his hearing a little bit, give him something to focus on. So the art, of course, is gorgeous. That panel,
Campbell's. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say that panel of Lois stepping out of the office and yelling just looks great.
And I was like, Campbell's, because he did the colors too, right? I think Campbell was all his art. Just the yellows and the purples and the golds, everything just washes Metropolis over to make it look like this gem of a city, and it's really beautiful.
I just simple little things where they're in the office and it's after she's been talking to everyone, and she grabs Clark's tie. There's one panel where it turns to a red background instead of a blue, and she says, "I'm a predator. I got to hunt for a story, and if I don't get one soon, I'm going to eat an intern." And it just shows how cooped up she is, that she's getting this cabin fever, being held back at the office. So the big thing though is that this sets up where the story's going. It reestablishes that Clark's got his secret identity. Him and Lois have to hide the fact that they're kissing on the roof in front of Jimmy. It looks like there's a disaster. It looks like there's some sort of weird blue and red tornado happening around the LexCorp building. But the big reveal is that these were nanobots building a giant Superman emblem at the top of the building. This is now the Superman Tower.
Supercore.
It's Supercorp. We find out it's the company in the next section, but just from this page, it's like this. Okay, we've got a Superman Tower, and then Mercy takes him around and shows. No. Lex has decided that there's bad stuff coming, and that he's got all these resources. He's got all these good scientists that he's sort of gobbled up with his money over time, and he's now giving Superman all these resources. Now, I'm sure he's got something up his sleeve because he always does, but at least at face value right now, he's saying, "This is your company now, Superman." And Superman tries to give them away, and Mercy's like, "Nah." He said that if you try and give ownership, he'll just fire everyone in the city.
Oh, and again, how do you get to Superman? Is you go after everybody else, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, I like the art style changes here with Campbell, because you have the kind of chibi version of Superman showing him around. It's like this.
Well, I took this as a. This is in Jurassic Park, you got the Dino DNA cartoon. This is a cartoon that's playing on a TV or whatever in the building.
Well, and I like that too, because you get the chibi version, but then that cartoony version of Metropolis looks like the Bruce Timm, Paul Dini animated series style. You know, the thick lines, and it really works out as a shift. And Campbell's really good at making that shift, I think.
Yeah, I mean, even that last panel on that page is Superman surrounded by all the employees wearing Superman emblems. It's very like an old propaganda poster from the 40s or whatever. It's just, there's a very intentional style. So Superman doesn't know how to take this, and the fact that these emblems everywhere all over this building, he doesn't really quite understand. But
he's just a blue collar guy from Kansas. This is all more alien to him than anything in the Fortress of Solitude, right?
There's an interesting premise here of like Lex finally saying, you know what, I'm putting this stupid rivalry aside. How can I help Superman like protect the world better?
Here, take my money. No, seriously, take my money.
Well,
but it also fits in with what Williamson was doing with Lex and the Batman Incorporated stuff. You know, back on when he had that short arc. So it tracks with this version of Luthor, who's kind of subverting superheroes to get, you know, to his own end.
What did you think of the fact that Lex made himself a hologram that looks like Jor-El just to make Superman feel at home?
Again, that was the thing that crossed the line, and I'm glad that how the art shows Clark with the furrowed eyes, right? It just goes to that panel with him and he's upset. Because I turned that page and I saw the Lex, Jor-El combo, and I was like, oh no. sir, you stepped the line.
Yeah, well, Superman storms off to go speak to Lex, but of course he doesn't get there. On his way, of course, Parasite is attacking, a school bus, and Superman has to come in and fight. Obviously, the action here from Campbell's great, but we see that there's like a whole bunch of like parasites. When he tracks Parasite back to where he was coming from. Parasite says he's hungrier than ever because of all the testing that's happened on him, and we see all these like, not his children, but like it's like he's like spread to other people. Other people have become Parasite.
Yeah, it's very like Venom or Carnage-esque, you know.
I did like though, like Superman stomping the ground for a shockwave because as Lex keeps bickering in his ear, you can't touch him, Superman, or he'll absorb your powers. So it's like, okay, he's got some rules. He has to think outside the box and how to fight him.
Yeah.
I enjoy that. Again, this is why rules are good, because rules mean that the hero has to work around them, and it's satisfying when he outsmarts the rules.
Right. Which is, again, why I love Superman as a concept, right? Because he's a guy that is, omnipowerful and has to, he has to live his life differently so he doesn't hurt other people, you know?
Yeah.
He doesn't, but he doesn't run away from that either, right? So I hate these versions of Superman where he's up in isolation, because like in Kingdom Come, there's a very good reason why he's in isolation. So, but here him doing the stomp and then seeing this family, or not family, colony of parasites, and then a very ominous the bottom of that page, somebody grabbing that it looks like a kryptonite scalpel, and stuff. Everything's just very creepy and ominous, and I thought the tone shift there was pretty good too, from superhero action to dark and creepy.
Yeah, it ends with Lex saying, you're not facing one of your enemies, you're facing one of mine, and that's why maybe Lex is actually going out his way to like try and give Superman like a boost. But we end with this creepy page where, like, I mean, I don't know if we know this character. He reminds me a little bit of the Key with the hair, but I don't think it's him.
No, I think this is the Kryptonite Claw guy that we got the
the teaser for. The
teaser for in the solicits last week. Or that could be somebody else, because if you look on this page, right? So again, very creepy. He's hanging over Bizarro, who he's using blue kryptonite to cut into.
And Bizarro's missing some arms, I want to point out.
He's missing arms. It looks like there's body parts and jars in the foreground. Playing music on like an old phonogram, also creepy. But on that, with the accomplice on this row of monitors, you have all these other what look like Superman villains. So it looks like Maxima and Silver Banshee, Lobo. I think that's Livewire in the main part. But then also there's like just rows of kryptonite. So maybe this isn't the Kryptonite Claw, maybe Kryptonite Claw's one of the people that this guy or this whoever this is going to, try to throw at Superman.
Yeah, so the last panel is this newspaper clipping on the wall, which I'm assuming is from when Lex still had hair and like first sort of came to prominence in Metropolis. Because it says, "Who's Metropolis' new hero?" and there's like a dart, and it said, I am curious about like this idea of like this villain who is like harvesting or experimenting in all of Superman's villains, or at least is intending to. And how long have they been around, and like what is their beef with Lex? I like the idea that we're keeping music as a theme, because obviously Clark's been listening to music. We see the flashback of him listening to music as a kid at the start when he's trying to control his hearing. We see him with the headphones in the middle of the issue, and then here at the end, while this creepy operation's happening on Bizarro, they've got an old like sort of gramophone playing music, which actually really gives you a good bit of sense of atmosphere. I can imagine like some old timey song playing in that as he's cutting into him.
Yep, me too. I can almost hear like the wobbly horns and stuff.
Yeah, but I think that's a very intentional like theme that they've kept up throughout the issue that links Superman to this villain and what's going on there. So that's kind of neat. It's a pretty solid first issue. It kind of reaffirms Superman's status quo here. This is Superman away from all the other super characters, so action's going to have the kids and Supergirl and John and like the entire family. This is more Superman with Lois, Jimmy's around, we're dealing with Lex. It's kind of the core characters of the mythos.
Yeah, so it's not like, I don't want to call it a back to basics, because this is, this is a very Superman story. But it feels different than even like Philip Kennedy Johnson's Warworld stuff and Bendis's take on Superman. But in a good way. Like, it has all the hallmarks of what I'm looking for in a Superman comic, right? And like the whole Lex subversion of him wanting to help Superman because this is one of his villains. Someone that hates Lex, not necessarily Superman. I loved all that stuff. That was a nice addition,
that's one of your hooks. So there's three main things here that it's trying to hook you on. It's hooking you on the differences, right? So it's like, okay, it's classic Superman setup, but Lois is the editor. Classic Superman setup, but Lex is at least claiming and wants to help Superman. And then you've got the tease of this new villain who might be a bigger bad than everyone else. But otherwise, it's a very, Clark's back at the Daily Planet. He's writing articles. It's playing with the basics more so. Whereas action, it feels like that's been allowed to explore the new family life with all these other characters and stuff.
That's almost Superman in a mythological sense, and that's what I've loved about Philip Kennedy Johnson's, since he took over for the Warworld stuff. It's a Superman is this big, huge ideal. Here is much more, felt like this is more of a Clark book than a Superman book, if that makes sense. Because we're really focused on him with the music, like with, the flashback at the beginning with his parents, and him using the music to focus, because of his hearing and whatever. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed this. And also I want to bring up that page where right after the title page, that kind of acts as a quick little origin. And I just think that's Campbell doing some really good artwork as well, because it's got Superman taking one of the Livewire's bolts and saving people, and that's all blue. And then his cape flows out, and you have all the red, which is, his history. You see, Jor-El and Lara and the spaceship and the Kent's finding him, and even him meeting Lex.
This is a 2-page layout,
Yeah, so, and it's just, again, Campbell's, the colors, you're playing with the blue and the red because of Superman, but it also, in the story sense, everything's there. But yeah, no, just thoroughly enjoyed. I had a big stupid smile on my face reading this.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it feels as promising to me initially as like Johnson stuff and action did. We got those first couple issues, which weren't technically even action. It was the Future State issues.
Future State.
But like that was instantly like, oh shit, this feels like it could be special. I think this feels really solid. Like I really like this first issue. I'm excited to see where it goes. Williamson, I think, has more misses than hits with me at this point, so I'm not going to get my hopes up too high. But art's really nice. Characterization for the characters is fun so far. So there's little to be upset about, certainly. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe Williamson is just, now admittedly his Flash one did still also tank after a while, but maybe Williamson is better suited to a solo character and their supporting cast, rather than the big event that has, you know,
Right.
150 characters in it.
Yeah, it did take his Flash, you know, up until that Shade issue, where it really, that's where it was starting to feel the cracks. So that was like, I think it was like 20 issues in. I'm probably way off, but you know, it was double shipping and all this other stuff. But he had a good start on Flash. So at least if this starts off as strong, I'll be happy.
But yeah, but that was before it even got really good as well, because the good stuff was up the build up to the Flash War and the issue 50 with Wally coming back and all that.
Yeah.
It was after that that it tanked. Like once we got
Yeah.
to the year one stuff and all the different forces, like it just it just fizzled into this nothingness that we're all just kind of miserable reading. So we'll see. We'll see where this goes, but it's a pretty solid first issue. Yeah. What are you giving Superman issue 1?
At the gate, I'm giving this a 9.
I'm just going with an 8. I think it's good. I think it's really good, but yeah, I'll just leave it at that.